themselves, they don't do research. It's the PhD students that do the research. So what happens, the professor gets a grant. He needs a PhD student or some PhD students to do the research, and he supervises them. Now, from the money he gets from the grant, he sponsors the education, both their school fees and their monthly stipend. So a university here does not just admit you and you are hanging. So before you admitted, a professor would have agreed that I want this person to join my lab. So they know the funding for your education is coming from this professor's grants. And even if it's from the university department, at best, your funding could come from a department, but you still need a lab to join. Each professor here they have their own lab. So it's not like Nigeria where you have a generic departmental lab for everybody. No, every professor has a research group, and each research group, they have their own lab, and he has his students making use of it. So that's why I will still get to that. If you want to get admission in the US, it's normally advisable to contact professors first to establish a communication with a professor. Because once you met the minimum criteria for admission, and the professor agrees to take you in, it's as good as you've gotten the admission and the funding. If he has funding, you are sure of coming to US, almost. Now, coming back to your question, whether your industrial experience and your academic experience is vital depends on the professor that wants to work with you. What is he looking for? So you see some professors who add a student that has a minimum of this. Well, there's a minimum benchmark basically, but a student that has experience in Python, a student that has experience in C++, a student that has at least 1 or 2 publications. And there are some professors that an industrial experience will actually add more color. In my case, I had done some research. Even when I worked in Shell, it was more like a research work, which I also stated well in my statement of purpose and my CV. And that track record, I believe, influenced my advisor's decision. And also the recommendation, excuse me, from my lecturer that worked with him on a project, he played a critical role in his decision to accept me to his research team. So, and your benchmark, your undergraduate studies is very vital because it's competitive. The professor does not generally have the final say. You need to meet a minimum benchmark by the university before consideration. Then, if you can, for those that are still in their undergraduate studies, one of the things that will make you generally competitive in applying to the US is having a publication, at least one. I normally tell people this: your final year project, if you can drive it to a point where you publish it, wonderful. It will add a color to your CV, particularly when you are thinking about a doctorate research in the US. One publication will do a lot for you. Having a publication. So I tell people, your undergraduate, now I didn't know these things when I was a tutor. We were just, let's get out of this place. we didn't care too much about, sincerely, I didn't care about the publication. I just needed to finish my project and leave photo, basically. But looking back, if I had the opportunity to, I had a chance to drive my project to a point of publication, but I didn't take it because I just went to get out. So I would tell people, if you can get one publication while in your undergraduate studies, do it. It will influence your chances of getting admitted and getting funding in the US. It will drastically influence your chances of getting funding in the US. Because it's a proof to the professor that, oh, this person is research inclined. They have something they can look at as a proof. So it makes it easier to make a decision on you when there is something they can look at, something objective, not just stories. It's something very objective. Exactly. So that's the same thing applies to CV. How do we even put yourself in the shoe of an admission of committee or a professor? How do you make it? How can you need an objective means of knowing that this person can do something? Now, it's not necessarily a must that you would have done something out of the world. I don't believe I did anything out of the world, but I keep telling people this. Wherever you find yourself, there's something I call objective judgment. You know, when I ask you to tell me about yourself, you can claim anything. I can do this, I can do that, I can do the other one, or I have the capacity to do this. They are all subjective values. But if there is something little, no matter how little it is, that you've done in the past that proves an ability to start something and get it done, no matter how little it is, it will make a world of difference, not just in academic pursuits, but even in industrial pursuits. It will make a world of difference. So the fact that I did a project with Shell that succeeded to a point where I got a special recommendation letter from the vice chancellor of the university, there's nobody who sees it that doesn't know that this is a proof that this person can get something done. So it's possible that it influenced his choice. I don't know, but I think it did.
Okay, great. So for people just joining in, I was just asking Mr. Winner about some of the things that influenced his choice. His own admission process was unique because he got a professor, and the professor piqued interest in his academic and career experience. So I was asking him if it was just if the professor's decision was influenced majorly by just his academic experience, or a bit of his working experience had a way to make him pick him. So he's telling us that a couple of things came together in his own view. He said he thinks his academics, his research experience, and then the recommendation letters he got. So I believe that as we're going on, you're catching some of these things. This is just for the people who are just coming on board. Okay, so Mr. Wida, we've gotten to this point now, and we have like 3-4 things to talk about, even before we go forward to the next process. The 4 things are personal statements, right? How did you scale through personal statements? People have a lot of struggles coming up with a good personal statement. We're also going to talk about this recommendation letter. How to get the right recommendation letter. Did you write it yourself? Did your lecturers write it, give to you, or how did it happen? Or how were the recommendation letters written properly? Then we're also going to talk about, you're going to tell us about research publications. How can people who don't have research publications now start putting something together so that they can have a publication to their name, even if it's a combined one? How much does it cost? Do you have an idea? Where can they publish? So maybe you can start with personal statements first. Tell us about personal statements. How did you do it? What were the things that made your personal statement outstanding?
All right, thank you, Richard. For that, I will say this. Personal statement is basically a story. It's an opportunity for you to tell us why we should take you in. You see, for two to work together, they have to agree, basically. There has to be an alignment in values, an alignment in focus for two people or two groups to work together. You know, one mistake people make is writing what I call a generic personal statement. The same personal statement they submit to Mr. A is what they submit to Mr. B, is what they submit to school C, is what they submit to school D. It's wrong. Now, I told you when we started that US is very unique. Each institution is different from another institution. Even in the institution, departments are different. Even in the same department, professors are different. Each professor has his own research area, like his own very unique research area. One professor might be measuring in machines, and even in the machines, he's probably measuring more in simulations. Another professor is focused on a totally different area. Now, one of the first steps in getting admission in the US is, first of all, decide what you want. What area are you looking at? Clearly. Secondly, find out the universities that offer, that have that research area. So if you go to, unlike Nigeria, universities here, their websites are exhaustive. They put in so much information, even about the professors on their websites. So if you are willing to really search, you will find a lot of useful information. Find out, Google, use your internet, not just for Facebook. Use your internet to do research. That's how we start research. It starts with the application process. Find out the universities that their research areas align with your own interests. Then thirdly, go deep down to the university and the department and find out, you go through each professor. Like, what is this professor's research area? What is that professor's research area? What is this? It's, if you know anybody that has gone to the US admission, mine was unique. It doesn't, most people, their pathway is what I'm telling you. Mine had to come through some recommendations. So I'll give you a more holistic overview that would help you. Now, find out each professor, what are their research areas? Note them down. Find out the professors that have research areas that align with your own. Or even if you don't have any research area, find a research area that the professor is working on that you think you will be interested in. That's important. So there are some of us, like myself, I didn't necessarily have a particular, my research area now was not exactly what I was not thinking about it by the time I was in photo. Now, when you fished out these things, pay attention to this next. And the fourth thing is this: for those professors that you are interested in, if you can, go and search them out online, read one or two publications that they have. Reading their publication will give you a greater insight on what they are really interested in and their research area. Now, with all this information you have, you come back to your statement of purpose. You weave, now you now have information on the university, the departments, their research area, what they're interested in. You can then weave your story in such a way that it aligns. You are not mentioning it directly, you see, but your research area, you can talk about your experiences. You know, we have diverse experiences as individuals, as humans. There are so many things about your life. You can't, in fact, at this stage, if you're asked to write a book about your life, you probably will be able to produce a thick cover, a very thick book, 500 pages. Now, you now have to fish out things in your life, on your experiences, starting from academy, starting from university, the projects you did in school, internships, things about you that portray a capacity to run in the direction of their research interests as a department, and possibly as an individual when you are talking about the professor. Now, more often than not, before you even start an application, it's normally advisable in the US to contact these professors 6 months ahead of when you will start your application. It's a secret. Get the professor to tell you, yes, I'm interested in you. If you can get any professor to tell you this, and that professor has funding, believe me, your chances of coming to the US is almost 60% done. Getting a professor to tell you, yes, I think I want you in. And you must not, you can do that before you start an application. And I helped a couple of persons to do that. I said, when you want to write an email to a professor, find out about him, find out his publication. Even if you didn't read anything, reference that publication in the email, one or two of his publications. And you can talk about how your skill set fits into that publication. It's psychology. It tells that professor that this person is really, really interested in me and my research area, to have gone to the extent of reading my publication. It makes you a stronger candidate for that professor than people that send generic emails. Oh, I'm Winner Anigbogu, I'm looking for a PhD opportunity. I don't know if you're interested in taking me into your lab. Why should he take you in? Always ask yourself that question: why should they take you in? When you ask yourself that why question, it will inform both your personal statements and your letter to professors. And so when you've done all this, but it's sell yourself, basically. That's what your personal statement is. Sell yourself, your vision, your drive. But make sure that these things are aligned with their own vision. I've reviewed a lot of medical school essays for my friends here that are applying to medical school, and these same issues it keeps coming up. What is the focus of the university, their medical department? Is your story aligning with that focus? So you have to do your homework well before you write a personal statement. If you combine these things together, you have a wonderful statement. And lastly, there is the need for friendship is important. If you have friends who have gone through this pathway before, they have experiences, write your personal statement, send it to them, let them review it. I did that my own time. I sent it to one of my friends. She's a PhD scholar too in the UK. I sent it to my professor that linked me up to my professor. I sent it to another of my friend that was already doing his PhD here. They all went through it as individuals and gave me their feedbacks. I worked on their feedbacks and reviewed my article till I got it up to a stage where it was good enough to make a statement. And then I submitted it. So in summary, do your homework well. Don't just write anything. If you want to be competitive, invest your time, energy, and resources into what you do. You start applying, actually, you start preparing to apply for US admission almost a year ahead. You don't start, US in particular, compared to any other country. If you want to come to the US, you almost start preparing at least 6 months ahead of time before the application opens, the application portal opens. So I know for international students, it's better to come into US during the fall because they have more funding for international students during the fall. A lot of students would have graduated. The fall is the best time. And if you are if you want to be admitted to the US fall next year, the application portal opens up September this year and closes December this year for most universities. So if you are thinking of coming to the US September next year, your application has to be submitted between September this year and December of this year. By February, March, they have started giving people admission offer, so they would have ample time to work on their visa and everything. So if you are here and you are thinking of coming to the US in fall next year, you should have actually started before now. At least start now. You still have from now to December to start preparing. So if you look at that, you find out that you need almost more than a year. If you want to apply next year, after this interactive session, start now to start doing your work well. Start now to start reading. Start now to start finding out the universities. Maybe by January, you start January, February, March, you start sending emails to professors, start communicating with them ahead of the time that your admission, that the application portal would open up. So do your work well. It increases your chances, and leverage on friends. If you have one, if you have some, leverage on them. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Winner. So you heard it. If you plan on going to study in US, you need to start the best time for you is for international students is the fall season. And then that starts by September period, around September 23rd of September, if I'm correct now. 22nd. I know I'm reading that period. So you need to start preparing yourself. We're already close to September, so obviously this fall is not for you. So you fall in the next fall.
Exactly. So it's for next fall that you have to start preparing. And the admission for next fall is opening up very soon. It's by September now, the portals will open and it will close. Most universities, they close by December this year for next fall's admission.
Okay. So you've talked about personal statements and some of the things that made yours stand out. Let's talk about recommendation letter. you're Nigerian and we understand Nigeria. And most times, I remember when I was still in undergraduate school and one of the seniors ahead of me, she was trying to go for her studies then to abroad. And she had to send me one mail. She was like, help me give this thing to Professor This. Just print it out, give it to him, let him just sign, right? So years later after school, I got like, because then I was still in year two. I didn't even know. So years later, I got to understand what really happened. That maybe she was trying to process admission. And then she had written the recommendation letter herself just to send to him to sign. What's it called now? What's the word? Oh, I'm missing it now. I ah, I have to send it back to her by scanning it. Yeah, I scan and send it back to her. So, how was yours? Were you the one that wrote yourself? Did the professors write for you? Were there specific things they had to put in to show that your interest matches with what the professor in the US is looking out for? How was it like for you?
Well, for mine, I didn't write it. I didn't even see it. I've not seen my recommendation letter till
Oh,
today. I don't
really?
know what they wrote. I don't know. But the
Okay.
thing is, I had a very good relationship with my professors in Puto.
Oh,
Recommendation letter, it's not necessarily about how your interest matches with the interest. It's about your person.
okay.
Who are you? What's your drive? Are you passionate about what you do? Do you do things with the zest? It's about your personality. And normally they will ask them questions from the point of view of things they have done with you in the past. There are some, not always, there are some recommendation letters that will request from the professors to cite a proof of what they are saying about you. For example, they are saying that you are resilient, you are this and that. Have they worked with you before to prove that? You get the idea. Now, for my case, I had a working relationship with my professors back in Futo. Like I had a very good relationship with them, my professors back in Futo. So it was easy. I, I trusted what they had to write. I didn't need to read it. But on many occasions, now also professors will tell you, I know my friends that have had to write, they needed recommendation letters. And some professors told them, write, whatever you write, I will sign and just submit. So it's unique. Just contact the professor. The professor will tell you if it's the person. I know one top professor in my department, she's very busy. So she will tell you, but she has to know you. That's the difference. That professor, she has to know you well enough to put her name behind you. But once she knows you to that extent and knows your capacity, she tells you to write and she just reads it and signs. So there are others that will write it themselves. In my case, the professors that wrote the recommendation letters, they wrote it themselves. I didn't even see the recommendation letters and submitted. And there are people I had worked with in the past. One of them was my project supervisor. One of them was one of my best lecturers, and I was his best student when I was there. The other one was another professor that I had a very good working relationship with him while I was in Puto. So I didn't have to think too hard about certain, but your recommendation letter is very vital. It's a key, um, it's a key decision item. It's a very important thing. If not, in a university setting, not every student is that outward. Like there are so many students that my professors don't even know they existed in my department. If you call their names now, they can't remember that they were once students. You see, for such students, would they no longer have recommendation? They need recommendation too. So in such cases, mostly where a professor does not know the student well enough to vouch for the student, to even know what to write, they might tell the students to write something and let us sign. So you see, that's where it normally applies the most, where a professor does not know a student well enough to know what to write about the person. And it's not always the student's fault. Life is like that. Everybody is not always at the front seat. Everybody is not always at the top echelon of the matrix. It's life. So it doesn't mean that if your professors are not that acquainted with you, that there's something, no, there's nothing bad about that. In fact, I have some friends that they generally prefer the low profile. So for such persons, you meet mostly a case where they will have to write it themselves. And if you don't trust a professor, please write your recommendation yourself and let him sign. Because it's important, very vital. What they say about you would inform the decision of the admission committee, because they will actually read those things. It will tell them, it will make them highlight you as a strong candidate, a weak candidate, or just about that. Yeah. I can hear you, Richard. Richard, I can't hear you.
Okay, sorry, I put my speaker on mute. So I wanted to ask you a quick question while you were still talking. The recommendation letter, must it come from your like a departmental lecturer? Must it come from? Can't it come from another lecturer in another department?
It can come from anywhere, but more often than not, the university will tell you during the application, these people are not like, they tell you exactly what they want.
Okay.
So there are some that will tell you, out of the 3 recommendations, that 2 must be professors that taught you. Oh. And well, we know back, somebody can claim anything, unfortunately. but then, if they said it's from your department, why not get it from your department? And then there are some that say 2 must be professors, and 1, any other, the third can be anybody, could be your boss in the office. And there are some institutions that will say the 3 must be professors that taught you. They don't want any from the industry.
Area. Workplace.
Yeah. So they are quite specific with what they want.
Okay, let's talk about the third thing that can drive your admission process, being your admission process to the US. For people who are just joining, we're talking about personal statement, recommendations, and publication. Okay, and he has already talked about the recommendation and personal statement. So for people who perhaps don't have a publication right now, and you've just given us insights that your publication goes a long way in helping your admission process, especially for a country like the US, when seeking for a professor's supervision, right? Okay, so how can someone who does not have a publication right now go about it? What journals are cheap enough for them to publish, and what are the secrets behind having a publication?
Well, I will say this first: you must not have a said publication, but then to make your candidacy stronger, if you have one, it's an advantage. So whatever can give you an advantage, why not do it? If you can, there are people that can. I didn't have any publication by the time I left. Yeah, I didn't have any. But if you think, like, I have a friend, he's still in Dubai. He's thinking of coming over to the US. So when we started talking about these things, most publications come from institutions. You see why I tell people, don't burn bridges when you cross the bridge. More often than not, for you to get publication, you see those your professors in university, you need them. You need them. Because they're normally the lead investigators. This does not seem right. But the fact is this: if you relate well with your professors back in university or lecturers, there could be an article that are working on that you might just have to make a minimal input and they will agree to attach your name to the article. I hope this can be, I don't know how to put it, but it's more here. It doesn't happen that much, but we are talking about back home. You have cases where even I remember then in school, some lecturers, maybe a student is doing something, did a project with the professor, And then other professors will attach their names at the back of the publication. And probably they have to pay for the cost of publication. That's where they might come in to share the cost of the publication, because some publications require funds. Like you pay to publish in some journals. They might say, okay, you have to pay this cost of the publication if you want your name to be attached and things like. But most importantly, if you need to publish, if you are still in school, have a close relationship with your advisor. Tell him that you want to do something that is publishable. And if you've left university and you are still thinking of a publication, you can, if you have a professor in your department that you have a working relationship with, you can discuss it with him. He will tell you what to do.
Okay.
So he will tell you what to do, basically. But again, it is not a must that you must have a publication. Just trying to say, whatever will make your candidacy stronger. If you can do it, do it. Because a publication is a proof that you've done something research-wise in the past. And it was fruitful enough that it got published in a journal, a conference. So it shows that the seed to do well is there. It's a way of objectively judging you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So before that was precise. Thank you so much. Before we move straight to the next stage of application, generally, if somebody wants to pick a university choice in US, because there are a lot of adverts when you log on to Facebook, when you're using Google, when you're using YouTube, a lot of universities are bringing in their ads, bringing in cheap courses, and people get easily carried away by those cheap courses or the popular universities pushing their ads to their faces, right? So what would be your advice for somebody who is thinking of picking a university? Should they go with the popular universities? Do they have to go with less popular universities? What would be your advice picking a university?
Like I said before, do your research well. If you want to get into the US, do your research well. Bend down and do your research. It's almost like a job application. So you have to spend nights surfing through the net. Remember that you might get a book where you are writing things down. If you have friends in the US, ask questions. Contact them. The US is so unique that there's actually no blanket. How do I put it? There's no generic blanket. A university might be rated higher than another university in the overall rating, but a department in the other university is higher than this department in that university rating. So it's that diverse. US is a unique society. I appreciate this society a lot. So if you want to make a choice, bend down, do your research well. And on the flip side, I will also say this: don't be too much worried about the university. The beautiful thing about the US is coming in is more difficult. It's more difficult coming in. But once you enter, moving from one university to another is easier than when you are in Nigeria. Like migration from one university to another, once you are in the US, it's so easy. You won't go through all this. You just need to contact the department or this professor. Okay, you are coming in 1 month or 2 months. Your transfer is done and you transfer to that university.
Really?
So coming in is more difficult. You can come in and find out that, that it's not this department is not focused on what I'm really, really interested in. And if you find that you're in another university that can give you what you want and has the funding, moving from one university to another in the US is so much easier than coming into the US for the first time from outside the US. So the hurdle is normally to come in.
Okay.
That's the hurdle. The hurdle is normally to come in. So you can easily, so basically do your research well, do your research well, do your research well. If you really bend down to do a detailed research, you won't have an issue. You won't have, and
Okay.
ask questions.
Okay. Understood. And I'm trusting everyone understands. So we're done with the whole application stage now, guys. If you do have questions, please put down your questions and let me know. Mr. Winner is going to take all questions towards the end of the class. The US has one of the highest rates of visa rejection, I think, in almost any nation in the world. The US has the highest rate of visa rejection. Mr. Winner, how was your visa application? How were you able to go through the processes and you got your study visa?
I will say this: the high visa rejection is actually for Nigerians and certain countries. It's the truth. They don't treat many other countries that way, and I don't blame them. When I mean I don't blame them, I do not blame them. Our credibility profile is extremely low. They know that many persons are looking for escape routes. They just want to run away from Nigeria. So they know that education is one of the easiest ways to escape. So their eyes are wide open when you are coming for an education, an academic visa. Anything that shows an indication that you are one of those many persons that just want an escape route, they will pick it up. And what are some of those things? I'll point some of them out. You studied mechanical engineering in Futa, and you applied to one school somewhere in US for economics. You see, you applied to one school like that in the US for economics. One of the things the person you meet in the consulate will ask you, okay, you studied mechanical engineering. What is the connection between mechanical engineering and economics? Now, mind you, in the US here, it's not a problem. In fact, many people do that. They study engineering and go for their postgraduate study in management. But when you're coming from Nigeria, it's actually a red flag for them. You studied mathematics and you got admission in a school for fine arts in the US. It's a red flag that you are not really interested in this fine arts. You just want to get visa and come to the US. It's a red flag. So you must know this. Anything, they generally believe that most persons are coming for the visa as an escape route. That is the truth. So they are on the lookout for, they are trained to pick out these things. They are literally trained to pick out these things. Anything that shows an indication that this person just wants to escape, they pick it out. And once they see that red flag, rejection. So these are some of them will ask you questions about, I heard they didn't ask me that they asked some persons questions about to bring a proof that shows that they're coming back to Nigeria. I heard that they asked some persons about what do they call that? Their properties. So bring some documents about some properties to prove that your
National
parents.
ties.
I didn't pass through that myself. But the reason why they're doing this is they know that many persons want to escape. So the job for you now is make sure that both in your application of a course, look, permit me to tell you, if you want to move from civil engineering to agriculture, please, when you come to the US, you can move to agriculture. But when you want to come in, if it's possible for you to apply to a civil engineering program, apply to a civil engineering program. When you come in, you can then migrate to agriculture. Because if you are moving from civil engineering in Nigeria, after 4 years in civil engineering, you want to come to US and do agriculture, it's a red flag. They most probably will pick it out. They believe you just got the admission because you want visa, not necessarily because you want to study agriculture. So these are the red flags that they pick up. The red flags that they pick up. But there is a class of persons that actually escape all these red flags. If you get a scholarship, a full funding, you won't go through all that hurdle. Because they believe that for you to be capable enough to be funded by a US institution, a US department, then you are valuable. They need you there in the US. So when they have that impression that you are needed in the US, they won't take you through any stress. And that's actually applied to me in my case. Normally my friend told me, if as much as you can, try to get funding, a funded academic study. If you do, believe, I don't know anybody that got a fully funded PhD study that was ever rejected visa. I don't know one person. Like one, I don't know one single person. And I have a lot of friends. I do not know one person. They didn't ask me much questions. And most persons before me and after me were rejected. I got there. The only thing they asked me was, how did you know about the opportunity? I told them how my professor, so they asked me, what's your research area? I told them a bit about the research area. And they asked me, what do I want to do when I graduate? I told them, well, that I love academia, and if I have an opportunity to contribute my quota in the Nigerian academic sector, that I will appreciate it. That's all. They said, all right, thank you. Welcome to the United States. I gave me my white card and I left. It didn't even last up to 2 minutes. Well, not more than 2 minutes interview. So if you get a fully funded program, you are 85% sure of visa. Most of the persons that they ask all this, where your father is funding you, your mother is, I didn't even bring any statement, proof of bank account. They didn't request for that. Because if you have a fully funded program, nobody will request for that. So your focus should be to get funding in the US. And trust me, unlike any other country, there is funding in this country. I'm the one telling you, there is funding in the United States. The universities have funding, professors have funding. If you make yourself a good candidate, they will fund you. And if they fund you, you won't have an issue with this. You will not have an issue with this. But unfortunately, in a case where everybody must not have that opportunity, then lay hold on what I told you. What they look out for, they generally believe that most persons want to escape. So they watch out for those red flags. Anything that gives them an indication that this person just wants to escape Nigeria. Once they pick that is done. And lastly, those consulate officers are actually trained. I know they're trained. So do you know that when you are interviewing, that they read you? They read who you are. If you see someone that is anxious to run away, to get a visa and run away, almost they can know. There are some generic answers. And that's why I tell people to be careful. When you go to many of these, what do they call them? Naira land and this, that, you will see a lot of things, a lot of generic answers. Oh, when they ask you this is what you answer them. As beautiful as those things are, they already know many of those things. Learn as much as you can, but be you. Be genuine, be original. I actually didn't go through any interview, like training, nothing. When I got my form I-20, I asked a friend how to apply for visa. He told me I applied. They gave me date. I appeared on the interview day. I did not necessarily do any special preparation. But I remember one incident that caught my attention. When the woman asked me, she looked at my profile. She asked me, have you ever left Nigeria? Yes, that's what she asked me. Have you ever left Nigeria for anything? I told her, I still remember because it was vivid to me, that I told her, no, I've never had any need for that. So I told her, no, yes. She said, not even for summer holidays or something. I was shocked by the answer. I was being me, just natural. I looked up at her. I said, my expression somehow changed. I said, no, I've never had any need for that. It's because I got a scholarship that I want to get this visa. The woman left what she was typing and looked at me for some seconds. And immediately after that, she gave me my visa listing. She took my passport, told me, welcome to the United States, gave me the white paper, and I left. So who you are, now you see others that come before the consulate officer, they're already fidgeting. They look at them in the eyes and they know that this one is already afraid. If you're not afraid, be you, be normal, and ask God for grace. Again, I said I'm a Christian. Ask God for grace. If God helps you and you are you and your purpose is genuine, you have nothing to be afraid of. You are not the first person that got visa. You will get visa. Lastly, concerning this visa thing, I will tell you this: be careful what you hear. Be careful what you hear. I am a Christian. I believe that as a man thinks in his heart, so you see, your mindset influences a lot about you. This is not part of the conversation, but you permit me to add it. Your mindset influences your reality. There are so many things out there sowing seeds of doubts in your heart. Oh, people are not getting, you are not people. Nobody, let me tell you this story. When I wanted to apply for my visa, someone told me to go to Naira Land. The night I went to Naira Land, I almost had a heart attack. The kind of negative stories I saw in Naira Land, no, but once some persons said that US is no longer giving anybody visa, that are no longer giving any Nigerian visa. Hey, that night I slept, I almost had heart attack. This is how people kill the motivations of others. The things you hear, they kill your spirit, and you think certain things are not possible. At the end of the day, your reality will be an expression of your mindset. It's a fact, I will tell you. After that night, I vowed to myself that I will never go to Naira Land again in preparation for my visa. Look at me, I got my visa. Did I go to Naira Land to write a post that, yo, I got my visa? I did not. That the same period, I know that people that got their visas, they didn't go to Naira Land to type that they got their visa. Why am I telling you this? Be careful what you take in. It will influence your mindset, and your mindset will affect your reality. That's a fact. I was in Port Harcourt, another story. When I got my internship in Shell, I was in Port Harcourt one day in a car. You know, Nigerians, we share a lot of things that are not true. People will argue that these oil companies that they no longer give, they don't give anybody employment on merit. It's not possible, it's a lie. I was looking at these people. Hey, right there in the car, I have tons of friends that got jobs with Shell on merit, 100% merit. They did not know any. Myself, I was on my way to joining Shell, 100% merit. I didn't know anybody. After me, I know so many persons that have joined Shell on merit. Do those people go on the media to blow their trumpets? No. So why am I saying this? Bad news makes more news than good things. But you must be careful to sift the information you take in. So someone in Dakar that probably he could have been opportuned to join Shell already has the mindset from what somebody said that, oh, leave all those people. None of them, they don't give anybody employment on merit. That mindset, if you have that mindset, believe me, you can hardly get a job with that oil. I know people that have joined Mobile on merit. And the same thing applies to visa interview. As a man thinks in his heart, so you see, if you allow all this information sit in your mind, you will not get a visa. Trust God, do your part, believe that good things will come to you. My visa process, it was so easy, Richard. It was so easy. I was telling a friend yesterday, I said that if you ask me now how to apply for American visa, I sincerely don't know because I've forgotten the process. It was so easy that I've forgotten how to do it. I didn't go through any hassle. I didn't go through any hassle at all. I did not go through a single hassle at all. My visa interview process itself, it didn't last more than 2 minutes. Your mindset. So pay attention to your mindset. Do your part. Make sure you eliminate anything that could be a red flag to them. Starting from even the program you're applying to. Okay. And if you do all these things, hopefully, grace will be on your side. You will get your visa. This year alone, I know I have two or three that are coming to the US to study. So people are getting visa. If you don't, no matter what you've heard, believe today from what I'm telling you that people are getting visa from Nigeria. Why won't you be one of such persons? People are getting visa. You should be one of the next persons to get visa to the US. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So we're going to speed up a little. I think we've spent some hours, and so that the question and answer sessions will also have a good time for it. So just for everyone, if you have questions, please start dropping them so that I'll just read them out and he takes them when we get to that section. You've talked about the visa process. Now we're going to collapse. The next question I want to ask is about your experience in your first couple of months? Moving to a new location is not really easy, and when you have other things to settle, you know how it is during your first period. So how were you able to cope with your first few months, one, and then what were the opportunities, or what are the opportunities you've identified within this period? The reason is because let's face the fact, let's face the fact, lucky are those who go for their studies and find something tangible to do while they are studying, right? So you want to be sure that you're in a system, that you're in a country that has a system that appreciates your efforts, right? And you're coming from a system where probably is not set up in a way that appreciates your efforts over time. So how can people identify opportunities when they get to the US? What are the opportunities for scholars in the US? And how can people who are applying start positioning themselves from the very minute they get to the US to start identifying those opportunities and utilizing them? So you're going to collapse those two questions together, and let's see how you're going to do that in the next 10 minutes so that we can fasten other things.
My experience in the US has been unique. US is quite a diverse society. You meet all kinds of persons. But don't trust CNN and Al Jazeera and Fox News. What you hear there is actually not what is happening in the US. US is one of the most accommodating society compared to Europe. US is so accommodating. Your ability to interlink with people is very vital. After I got my admission, you know, the next thing I did, nobody told me. I went to the website of my advisor and I linked up with the students in his lab. I started communicating with them through LinkedIn. My advisor didn't tell me that. I did that of my own accord. It was actually two of them that came to the airport to pick me up. So one of them, who is from Vietnam, accommodated me in his house for the first 2 weeks. I was in the US before I got my own house. In my school, for example, you have African Students Association, but you can't know these things if you don't start linking up with people. So my onboarding process in the US was easy because I linked up with people. If not, I would have gone through a lot of hard time, avoidable hard time. You see? So my first few months in the US, I really didn't have much negativity, sincerely. The only thing is that this is a very individualistic society. You know, in Nigeria, we have this communal lifestyle. Everybody, you are part of everybody's life. Everybody, Richard, your friend can just come to your door and knock. And he doesn't need to call you on phone that he's coming. It's here you will learn what it means that you are your own, OYO. It was a whole experience for me, getting used to that. You step out of the class, you move in your own direction, except you have some friends that you pally with, you on your own. You can be in your house for 3-4 months, nobody will visit you except if you consciously, exactly, you are on your own. So you have to have that wholesome mindset. In fact, if you're not careful, it might affect you. You have to consciously build a community. You have to consciously seek for a community. You have to consciously build friends in order to have one. So that's part of the experience. Concerning the opportunities, US is a land of opportunities. There are so many things here. There are so many possibilities. You just have to open your eyes wide. One important thing is this. In Nigeria, it's as if everything is fighting you. We all went to university, and it's as if everything is fighting your efforts. Lecturers are fighting you. Federal government is fighting you with strike. Missing script is fighting you. Just name it, everything. Bad roads are fighting you. Here, most of those constraints you have in Nigeria are taken away. So it becomes more a function of how far can you see? Can you think? Can you set things in motion? If you have a vision, if you have the drive, if you push your way through it's as if this society has a capacity to magnify efforts. Yes. I have so many questions. This society, so there are many opportunities. It was in the US in the course of my PhD that I ventured into. Quality management, quality assurance, and management. I ventured into cloud architecture designs. All these things were of my own volition. In fact, a lot of the opportunities I'm getting are actually from the cloud because of my knowledge of the cloud. I'm getting a lot of opportunities from industries just because of my knowledge of the cloud. And it's not part of my research work. And nobody pushed me into it. I made a decision out of my own personal drive. So in the US, really, you become more of how far you can drive yourself. There are so many opportunities. For want of time, I might like to stop it here. So hopefully we can get there. I'm seeing a lot of interesting questions that I might like to clear.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, there are a lot of interesting questions, and we want to also do justice to that as much as we don't want to stay too late, right? Okay, because some other people would like to do some other things. So he has made mention of something very significant, LinkedIn. I remember sometime this year, around April or May, if I'm still getting it right now, we did a series on utilizing LinkedIn. As we're doing a series now on abroad studies, we did that on LinkedIn because we noticed that a lot of Nigerians are not utilizing that platform. I don't know, for some reason, because they think it's boring. There's no, yeah, it could be boring. There's no UPOP, but then you need it. You need it for, I usually say, if you're a young professional, especially in Nigeria, you need that platform, whether you like it or not. Twitter is good, Instagram is good, Facebook is good, but please add LinkedIn. There are a lot of networking you can do there that you will never think of doing in any of these other platforms, right? So please get yourself an account, set it up properly, and start using that platform. You've heard it now. There's a lot of networking. There's a lot of connection. You do that. You on a normal day, you won't just go to Facebook and do that, right? But since anybody that is on LinkedIn knows that it's a networking platform and for professional networking, not just chit chat. So they know when you send a request, they know when you're asking to be part of their professional network or get involved in their projects. They know why you're coming on with such a
Richard,
request.
let me add one other secret now that you pointed out LinkedIn. Many persons on LinkedIn are serious people. So I will tell you one thing that helps me in LinkedIn. Again, don't send, if you really want to connect with people that don't know you and have no reason to accept you, don't send a generic add me on LinkedIn. I get a lot of them. Believe me, I can't add I don't add everybody I see them. If I don't know you and we have nothing in common, why should I? If you want to add someone that you have nothing in common with, you see this same thing I told you about a professor. Do it to the person. It works. Find out about the person. You have an internet. Maybe the person is working in cyber something. You know, if I remember, if you want to send someone an invite on LinkedIn, there's a box where you can write, right?
Where you can personalize a message for the person.
Yes. So, hey, I'm so and so person. I saw your work or your article on so and so this thing. It was a wonderful article. That. Send it to the person. The person is way more likely to accept you into their circle than you just sending add me on LinkedIn. I'm telling you, it works. I've made a lot of connections of people in different parts of the world that I needed their Canada, different place. That's how it happened. It shows that you are intentional about the connection, that you are interested in them and what they are doing, and they're more likely to respond to you. This is a secret about LinkedIn connection that I'm giving you. They're more likely to respond to you than anything generic. Thank you.
Guys, so we've spent a lot of time. Let's start treating the questions. This is the last segment. If you've not dropped your question, drop them now so that we're going to start treating them. So, Mr. Winner, the first question, the person is asking, what if a professor does not respond to my mail and the school says that I must get it's necessary to get a professor? What do I do? Should I still go ahead and apply? So did you get the question, Mr. Winner?
Yes.
Okay, so in that case, what's your advice?
Like I told you people, I explained when we started, having a professor interested in you, it's if not the most important part of your admission in the US. So if the school said you should, please do. If you don't, they most probably won't accept you. Most probably will not accept you, because it's more often than not is the professors that sponsors your PhD from their grants. Now, what do? If you send the first email and they don't respond, wait for some time. Wait for 2 months. Professors are very busy. They have grants that they're writing, grant applications that they're writing, and this, that. They are very busy. Send a second email after maybe 2 months. And secondly, network. This professor, they have people in their labs. Go to LinkedIn. Find out who their students are. Go to the university. For example, my professor, he has a profile. That they said, I saw somebody say it's not, that they said it is not necessary. Believe me, I'm in the US. I'm telling you, please, if you can't do it. I'm the one telling you this. Almost everybody I know that got a PhD opportunity got it through reference, either referral, if somebody that knows the professor referred them, or they contacted the professor personally and the professor said, yes, we want you in. Almost, I don't know anybody that got a PhD admission in the US that didn't communicate with a professor. So they might say not necessary, but I'm telling you that if you can, please do it, because you are not the only person qualified for the opportunity. That is a fact. But when the professor has given you his word, it's easier. So interlink, go to LinkedIn. Okay, as we speak now, I'm trying to help another guy from Nigeria come and join my research group. It was through a friend of a friend, an opportunity came out. I communicated with my circle of friends. You know anybody with this profile? This is a friend of mine that works for Shell, a young boy, he's mentoring. He linked me up to the guy. Hopefully by November, he will come over to the US. I was the one that recommended him to my professor. Somebody recommended me. My friend that is graduating from University of Kentucky, it was another professor, a Ghanaian, that he communicated with through email. The guy didn't have funding, so the guy recommended him to another professor that has funding in the same department. So you see how these things work. Network. Don't send an email to one professor. Scatter your breads upon many waters. Send to so many professors. If you can, send to 5 professors in the same department. Don't limit it to 1. Send to 5 of them in the same department. In fact, send to 7 of them, in fact, if you can. Let them reply. You can, if you have 3 positive replies, you keep communicating until you decide on one. Don't limit yourself to one person.
Okay, great. I think that has answered the question. For the person who asked that question, if your question has been answered, please give a thumbs up. Let's be sure your question has been answered. While I read out the second question. So the second question says, what do you say, really? Okay, not that one. How do I get funding for master's program that is not research inclined, like an MBA course, an MPH, that's okay, the person said you've answered the question. Nice, we saw that. So did you get this question now?
Yeah. From my experience, it's actually difficult. Most fundings are more research focused in the US, particularly the arts discipline. MBA, liberal art, they hardly have funding. So what you can do is, for such fundings, there are certain bodies. I know there are some, if you know a bit about UK scholarships are more like scholarship bodies, all these, what are they called? I don't know. There are so many, either oil company scholarship or there's a Chevening scholarship.
Erasmus.
You have more of such bodies in UK, but in US, most scholarships come from the university or the professor fund. The professor, it comes from institutions. You don't have much of those bodies. But now, for you that is thinking about certain things that are not, you have to. It's difficult to get it from the institution. I have to tell you the truth. So what do you do? Look out for such bodies. In as much as it's difficult, they still exist. I'm not a woman, but I've seen a lot of opportunities for women that many of our ladies are not maximizing. A lot of scholarship offers for women from Africa that are interested in the US. There are so many of them online. So for such a person, look out more for such bodies. You are more likely to get funding from such bodies than from an institution. Exhaust all your options.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the third question, I don't know if you want to take that. I don't know how relevant that is.
Is it a gun violence?
Yes. You want to take?
I actually answered. The guy I'm trying to help come over.
It's kind of a political question. So
recently, then let me surprise you people. Are you aware that Nigeria is a very tiny country? I didn't know until I left Nigeria. Nigeria is tiny. And I didn't say it's a small country, it's a tiny country. Now, it will surprise you to know that the whole of Nigeria is almost the size of just one state in the US, Texas. The whole of Nigeria is about the size of Texas. And US, they have 52 of such states. Do you know the implication? US is so big that many of the things you hear in the news are not actually as commonplace as they appear on the news. So once in a while, there are some insane people, you will see those insane incidents. But let me tell you the truth. When you hear, when you listen to CNN, during the US election, my parents will call me, what's happening? What is the situation of things? When you listen to CNN, you think people are all over the streets with guns, looking that people are boxing themselves on the streets. I would always laugh. I said, if you're in the US, you wouldn't even know an election is going on. Like, seriously, it was a shocker to them. To them, yes, everything is normal. People are going to school. Sincerely, you will not know an election is going on in the US. That's how big the US is. That's how organized the US is. But what happens over the news is this. They bring what is happening in different places, gather them together, and through the news, they want to create an emotional effect on you. So they give you the impression that people are moving all over the place with guns, shooting others. It is not true. Do those things happen? Yes. But that doesn't mean that anywhere you move around in the US, you have to hide. No. In fact, let me give you when Black Lives Matter happened, US is so big that if you are not at the epicenter where the event is happening, if you are not reading news, you won't even know such a thing took place. Let me give you an example. It's like being in Nigeria, in Lagos, or in Anambra State, and something is happening in Egypt. That's exactly. Do you feel it in Lagos? That people are doing something in Cairo, that people are rioting in Cairo. Do you know that's actually the truth about the reality here? If it is not happening in your city where you are, you almost will not even notice that such a thing is happening. But when you go to the news, and they're doing their job, the job of the news is to create that emotional effect. So I'm not saying that those things don't happen, but they don't happen the way the news portrays them. They don't have an effect that the news sells to the public, particularly those that are outside the US. So just don't base your knowledge of the US on CNN, Fox News, BBC, Al Jazeera. It is not true. US is so polarized that depending on the side of the pole you are on, the news network, they do everything they can to sell their own mindset and story. And whatever they can piece together to make their narrative stronger, they piece those things together. But that's not, more often than not, those things are not the true representation of the reality on ground. There might be truths in it, but they create an impression over the news that is not the reality on ground. I give you an example of the election. In fact, Nigerians, we are talking more about US election than people in the US. Anytime then when I enter Facebook, you see Nigerians fighting on Facebook about US election. People in the US are moving about, living their lives without even knowing that an election, those that are voting are voting. People somewhere, why? The news. So thank you. It's not, okay. Nobody is shooting you all around the US. It's not true. And I pray if you come into the US, do what you are meant to do. Well, racism still exists all over the world. Be informed. Know how to carry yourself along. Nobody is out to catch you. Nobody is out to shoot you. And I pray you will not be unfortunate to be somewhere where those isolated incidences would happen. That's just my prayer, because they do happen. Those isolated incidences will happen. And my prayer is that you will not be found there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Winner. Thank you so much. And you've done a great job today. Does anybody have any other question? I think I've exhausted the questions we have. And is there any other person with anything to say? We have 2 minutes to do that before we call it a day. Nobody? Okay. So thank you so much, Mr. Winner. Please let's give Mr. Winner a thumbs up and say thank you, Mr. Winner. Please, everybody, give a thumbs up and say thank you, Mr. Winner. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for showing up. Like I said earlier, this is second class in this series. By Sunday, we're going to be dealing with opportunities in the UK. I'm trying to see if I can share the flyer now. Yeah, trying to see if I can share that. Share my screen. Okay, I think I can. Let me see if I can share my screen with you. Is this possible? Okay, yeah, here you go. Can you guys see this? Can you guys see this? Hello?
I can see that.
Okay,
I
you
should
can,
believe
right?
Richard.
Okay, yeah. So that's the next class, and I hope to see you all on Sunday. Thank you so much for showing up. Mr. Winner, I really appreciate. Thank you so much, everyone.
You're welcome.
Yes, that's all. See you all on Sunday. To take care and good night.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right. Bye, guys. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Winners. Thank you, Mr. Richard.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sheung. I really appreciate. All right. Bye, guys.